To be here in Slemani and in the Delphi Economic Forum here for the second time. And I would like to take this opportunity and thank the organizers, and especially Mr. Simeon Tsomokos, the founder and the president of the Delphi Economic Forum, who has proved through his work here as well that building bridges is more important than divisions. In the next panel, we're going to discuss about the new Gulf security architecture, from deterrence to strategic coordination within Europe. The panel and the three distinguished guests will examine how Europe and how the Gulf can move past episodic cooperation to co-author mechanisms for regional stability. We will also analyze the changing security of Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Iran, and the vital balancing role of Iraq and, of course, the important Kurdistan region, and how the European regulatory power, defense and cooperation, and diplomatic leverage can be integrated into a resilient, multipolar architecture for global governance. So I would like to welcome Ms. Anna Birchal, who is former Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Justice of Romania. Welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Irakli Alasanya, former Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of Georgia, and also co-founder and CEO of Saudi Investment. Good evening. Thank you. And of course, Mr. Massimo Karhalach, Director of International Relations for the Middle East and Africa, Med-Or Italian Foundation from Italy, of course. Thank you. So I would like to start with you, Ms. Birkel, and I would like to ask you, from your experience, how do you see the architecture going on in the Gulf region?
Thank you, Alessia. Before sharing with you some thoughts, please allow me to thank Simeon and Basil and the organizer for putting together this amazing host. It's a true honor for me to be here. And a particular thank you for our hosts for looking after us so well. The food is amazing, but likewise for keeping us safe. The topic of today, obviously, it's incredibly timely, because we meet at a time when the international security landscape is undergoing one of its most significant transformations since the end of the Cold War. For decades, security architectures were built primarily around deterrence. Today, deterrence remains necessary, but it is no longer sufficient, in my opinion, because the challenges we are facing are more complex, more interconnected, and more transnational than ever before. That's why the discussion is timely, because Gulf security is no longer a regional matter in the narrow sense. And if you allow me, I would like to expand with you what do I mean. Because the Gulf is no longer simply a region of strategic importance because of its energy resources, as it was so for so many years. It has become a center of investment, innovation, connectivity, and geopolitical influence. What happens in the Gulf today affects Europe and beyond. What happens in Europe affects the Gulf. Strong reasons to deepen our ties. Those are very strong reasons, because our security, prosperity, and stability are increasingly interdependent. That is why I believe the conversation should not be about how Europe can engage with the Gulf, but how Europe and the Gulf can jointly shape a new model of strategic cooperation. Because what I want to put forward to you today is this idea of having the possibility of a strategic cooperation between Europe and the Gulf. Because the region is connected to global energy markets, trade routes, maritime and road, food and water security, digital infrastructure, critical minerals, migration pressures, and the future balance of power, just to give you a few examples. So we are no longer in an environment in which deterrence can be understood only as military posture. Deterrence obviously still matters, but today deterrence must be complemented by coordination among partners in different regions, resilience, crisis management, and credible economic alternatives, because the Gulf itself has changed. It is not only an energy production region. It is increasingly a center of investment, technology, logistic, artificial intelligence, green industry, and diplomatic mediation. And I would like to stress that one. Because for Europe, this means that the Gulf cannot be treated only as a source of energy or as a theater of periodic crisis diplomacy. It must be approached as a strategic partner in the construction of regional and global stability. So therefore, the question before us is therefore not whether Europe can and the Gulf should cooperate, because they already do. The real question, in my opinion, is whether they can move from episodic cooperation to co-author mechanism of global stability. From a European perspective, I would say that deterrence remains necessary, but deterrence alone is not longer sufficient. Because in recent years, the region has seen missiles, drone attacks, proxy escalation, maritime disruption, cyber risk, and pressure on critical infrastructure. So one lesson that I think we should learn that is very clear: security threats has become hybrid, disrupted, and difficult to contain once they escalate. So you're mentioning Saudi Arabia. Some countries, such as Saudi Arabia, for example, are increasingly approaching security throughout diversification. What type of diversification? Diversification of partnership, diversification of economies, diversification of technology, and diversification of diplomatic channels. And I think those are type of diversification that all the countries in the region might want to consider, because a sustainable security architecture cannot pretend that Iran does not exist. And allow me to just say a few words about this, because neither can it ignore or condone destabilization behavior. The difficult task is to combine credible deterrence with channels for de-escalation, risk reduction, and veritable restraints. So this is where I believe that Europe can bring added value, because we have learned that instability does not remain neatly contained. Pressure on ports, grids, energy routes, digital networks, and border regions can rapidly acquire regional and even global consequences. So, to come to Iraq and the Kurdish region, I think they should be seen and understood not as a margin of Gulf security, but for what they are, a central balancing space, because Iraq sits, and you don't need me to tell you, but this is the reality, so allow me just to point it out. Iraq sits at the intersection of the Gulf, Iran, Turkey, the Levant, and the wider Euro-Asia connectivity. So its stability has direct implication for counter-terrorism, energy flows, migration, border management, and regional diplomacy. So a stable Iraq reduces the space for regional securitarian threats, lower the risk of proxy confrontation, and creates a bridge between actors and otherwise have limited channels of communication. So as we've been hearing earlier today, the Kurdistan region also has great strategic relevance, and it should be appreciated for this, because its geography, security experience, energy resources, and links with multiple regional actors make it an important node in the wider region balance. So to try to conclude, obviously I share more ideas here, maybe later if there is time I can point it out, but I think Europe should not approach the Gulf as a distant region to be managed occasionally. I'm sorry to be so direct, but that's the reality. I think it should approach it as a strategic space whose stability affects European security, economic competitiveness, energy resilience, and global governance, because the new Gulf security architecture will thus not be built by combining deterrence with coordination, resilience, technology, diplomacy, and credible institutions. Europe should not merely react to Gulf crisis. It should help to co-author the mechanisms that reduces miscalculation, protect infrastructure, and practically give this region stability. So, for countries such as my own country, supporting a partnership is a matter of strategic realism. So, because a more stable Gulf supports a more a stable Europe. And I will end here, and I just want to hear your thoughts and my colleagues, this idea of having a strategic partnership between and strategic cooperation between Europe and the Gulf. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You gave us a very good analysis and your perspective on the architecture on the Gulf. Now, I would like to come to you, Mr. Alassani, and ask you what role can Caucasus play in the regional security and in the economic development?
Well, thank you. And it's,
No.
Not yet. One more try.
Mike is not
Yes,
there.
now it's perfect.
Well, first of all, it's also such an honor and pleasure to be here with you discussing these very important things. This forum is amazing with the present experts. Thank you very much. I'm going to go straight to your question. I mean, the first question was, of course, how we view the situation in the Gulf. And I think what's happening in Iran and in our region is a vivid demonstration that the old world system has collapsed. The final nail to the old world system was Russia's revanchist war that started in Ukraine. But we all thought who were in diplomacy and in the government that kind of the old world system was eroding for past 15, 20 years. I was ambassador at the UN, and I was seeing how the decisions was hard to get to the Security Council because 2 permanent members were blocking everything they needed to see in the Security Council, and that affected so many conflicts in the world. So we were heading towards this, but this rapid collapse was not anticipated. On the other hand, though, all the conflicts and the wars for past, I don't know, decades was strategic miscalculations by those who started it. It was the miscalculation, I think, in Iran that the regime would collapse in a few days when the war started. It was a big miscalculation by Russia when they entered the Ukraine territory, that the Ukraine will not be resilient, that they will take over in 3 days or 3 weeks. And past wars that the United States was part of it also. But it's amazing also how to miscalculate things when you have such a powerful analytical and intelligence services. But it's always like this. It's a failure of intelligence, failure analysis. That most probably the leaders and politicians don't want to hear the truth. They want to see the world in their own eyes and how they view it. And that's what brings instability and wrong decisions. So where we stand today? Today, I think the new regional alliances will emerge based on pragmatic interrelationships, based on pragmatism, where we need each other in economy and defense and security. And I think there's a door is wide open for us to cooperate in the region, Caucasus, Gulf states, and Europe, Central Asia. And this place where we are is vitally situated to be at the epicenter of this cooperation. I think we should start the strategic dialogue on the government levels because unless we strategically see things where we can stand together, where we can build the structures, it's only remain talks. So I would like to see our governments also starting providing some input and methodical input in how this new structure will emerge. It will take time. We should be patient, and patience was mentioned today a few times during our course of the day. At the end, I would like to say that we should still see the opportunity. When old doors are shutting down, the new doors will open. And I think this forum is very timely. We have to continue talking about this, what kind of structures we can build that will be deterrent. And one more thing. We discussed this in Athens. New technologies and developments in the defense systems actually provides small countries and medium-sized countries now perfect deterrent possibilities. So deterrence is not only the luxury of the big and powerful states. So this is also gives this regional cooperation and regional systems to have their own deterrent to prevent future conflicts.
Thank you so much and for your interesting proposals. Now, Mr. Karalach, you come from Italy, Mediterranean. So how can Europe, and in its various forms, enhance its relations with the broader Mediterranean countries?
First of all, if you allow me
Of course.
to thank Delphi Forum, Simeon, thank you so much for inviting me, and also the regional government, Kurdistan, thank you so much for having me here and my foundation. That said, I have nothing left to say after my two distinguished colleagues. So I will try, even though to build on what I have said from my two fellow panelists. First of all, my Romanian colleague said about Europe and Gulf not so distant. So let me flip it and let's say widen the perspective and talk about how geography of Europe is somehow the neighborhood of the, let's say, MENA, Levant, Gulf area. So if we maybe can talk in simpler ways, the arena of the Arab Peninsula extending to, let's say, the Middle East, the real Middle East, starts from Iraq towards east, because we have the Levant, which is the Near East. That area is our neighborhood. And if we look at the, let's say, the geopolitical theory of the heartlands and the rimlands, if we take the Euro-Mediterranean countries from Portugal to Turkey even, our rimland is in the south. It's on the other bank of the Mediterranean. It's on the east of the Mediterranean. It's on this, on the cradle of civilizations that from 7,000 years here in Iraq rose up with the Egyptian pharaonic civilization. What I mean, if we start to have this kind of relationship, these countries are our neighbor, and we should treat them like neighbors. Maybe things can be related in another way. What I mean, and we have heard it today in several great speeches that I've heard, and if we take the fil rouge, the key word that I've heard starting from the very beginning, we have heard that cooperation is the needed task that we have to enhance, to boost, and to hope that we can much and more have between Europe and let's call the extended Gulf.
Thank you so much, Massimo. Now, we don't have much time, so I would like Anna to be very brief in your answer, asking you about your foundation and your vision, and how do you think the future of the foundation?
Well, as I was trying to say, that we need a future security architecture that should be based, in my opinion, on three pillars. One will be strategic trust, because we can't build anything if you don't have trust. That will be the first foundation. Then technological cooperation, and you know it, from cyber to artificial intelligence to critical infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And then the third will be the shared responsibility for global governance, because I think that will be another pillar that will allow us to look for the future, to actually practically have the Gulf and Europe, but I agree with you, so the wider, that's why I was mentioning the Levant as well. But practically the Gulf and Europe have an opportunity today not simply to react to challenges, but to shape the future together.
Thank you so much. A brief answer about the war in Ukraine, and what lessons can Europe learn from this ongoing war to your perspective?
Well, first of all, we all witnessed that now there's a turning point in the conflict. We know, I mean, obvious that Russian plans failed, so they will not win in this war. It doesn't mean that Ukraine will get everything it wants at the same time, but it's already a present feeling everywhere that Ukraine will have an upper hand slowly in the negotiations. I feel that results of negotiations is getting closer to us. It's not going to be maybe a month or two, but by the end of this year, early next year, we're going to see some kind of agreement. And it means that the civilized world in Ukraine will win because Putin will not have his own way. If it had that the region that we're talking about would have reshaped in a much different way. So exactly what I want to say that what we learn from here is that first, we have to clear-eye watch what the threats are and confront threats not in a half measures that it was before, but in a full measure. So Ukraine needs full support from all of us in the ways we can, especially from the Europe and United States, and hope he will get it to make sure that they're going to have the upper hand in a negotiated solution.
Right, thank you so much. And Massimo, a brief answer about the future of Europe and how we can engage Europe to benefit from any prosperity that might be in the general area.
Yeah, I think that if we take the Europe and Arab, let's say Arab Gulf world, I think that, if I may say that up to the early 2000s, there was a proverb here in this region that said that Cairo writes, Beirut prints, and Baghdad reads. Now, after what happened from the 2000 and so on, this, of course, historical changes have shifted this kind of view of the Arab world into the Gulf region, okay? So I think that what Gulf and Europe can do together is to promote what have just been said before in the previous panel about how the Gulf is engaging outside its being rentier states and investing in technology, investing in space. Even if we look at UAE, as the professor said, they are investing in massively in space research. So if we can bring together those kind of efforts and bridge them, I think that the whole area will benefit from this kind of cooperation, extended from all the manufacturing that can be put on the ground, but also to the intellectual and cultural arenas and areas. And lastly, everybody knows about the IMEC, India, Middle East corridor. From my country's perspective, from Italy's perspective, this should not be seen as one corridor, but a network of corridors, where even Iraq and Kurdistan and Turkey and Egypt and Cyprus and every country can benefit from, let's say, multiple ways of getting goods and energy and flows of technology from the rising India into the heart of Europe. So this area can be really the bridge between the new continents that are emerging.
Right, thank you so much. I would like to thank you all for coming to the Delphi Economic Forum and here
Thank
in
you very
Slemani.
much.
Thank you
And
too.
let's hope your visions be very strong voices to the international community.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Thank you.
attention.
Thank you, Alice.